is with fascination, right? He doesn't think what will happen if I see Doraemon. Nothing is going to happen if you see Doraemon. But you like seeing Doraemon. So similarly, nothing is going to happen if you read a book. Nobody is going to pay you to read a book. But when you read a book and you learn to like it, so there is a difference between a film, a movie and a book in a way that if you turn on the TV, the film is, you can see it. It's a visual art. But if you read a book, you can just see pages with letters printed on it, with words printed on it. So how do you enjoy a page full of words? We need to read it. And not just read. For that, there are certain prerequisites, of course. Like we need to be able to read the language in which we were reading. For example, মই যেতিয়া পঢ়া আৰম্ভ কৰিছিলো অসমীয়া কিতাপ, other than the fact that অসমীয়া কিতাপৰ যোনবিলাক context, say অসমীয়া গাঁৱত বানপানী হোৱাৰ যোনটো context, মই কেতিয়াও গাঁৱত থকা নাই, মই বানপানী দেখা নাই. So সেইটো মোৰ কাৰণে এলিয়েন হোৱাটো এটা barrier. Second and more bigger barrier to হৈছে যে অসমীয়া পঢ়াৰ ফ্লুৱেন্সিটো নাথাকাটো তাতকেও আটাইতকৈ ডাঙৰ barrier. So সাহিত্য পঢ়িবলে আমি যোনটো ভাষাত পঢ়ি আছো সেইটো ফ্লুৱেন্সিটো থাকাটো is a basic prerequisite. We need to be able to read, of course, language. Second is, you need to be able to understand the meaning of what you are reading. আমি যদি পঢ়ো আৰু বুজি নাপাও কি লিখা আছে, then we are not going to like it, right? So, সেইটো থাকে. So, visual art, say a movie, an architecture like Taj Mahal, or a good film, or a good song, and a good painting, whatever, and literature, what makes it different is that to like it as an art form, you need to be able to read the language, the script fluently. To me, hey, subjector logot at a level of relate koribo lagbo. Plus, to me, jodi literary fiction pohibo bisara, which is altogether a new ball, then he aesthetic training too বহুত important থাকে. Like, you cannot suddenly one day open a page of Shakespeare, read it and like it. It's very unlikely that you would like it suddenly all at once. But people read classics over and over for, say, after 2-3 years gap. Like, I've heard stories of booktubers telling that, say, Willow Book said that he read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I think you would have had that in your syllabus. When he was 22, he liked it somewhat, but when he read it at 24, he again felt something different. When he read it at 26, again he could find some new meaning. So, literary fiction is supposed to be read in a way where you would want to, maybe impossible in future, reread it and find out new meanings, new possibilities, new ways of thinking out of it. So, there is also one set of fiction which is only just for pure pleasure. So, pure pleasure, of course, you can get pleasure out of literary fiction, but it's just that it needs more training. If you read something more light books, then you might be more easily be able to like the book just like you like a song or a movie or anything. So, that is there. So, yeah, so there are films, like there are films about science fiction, there are also science fiction books, which are written for the purpose of you feeling that excitement of reading science fiction. Or there are detective novels, which are written for you to feel like, Sherlock Holmes was a detective character, like in a detective novel first. And there is like Agatha Christie books where there are murder mysteries, different things. There are certain books like Tolkien, Lord of Rings. All these things were first written in books. So any genre of anything you see in a film or a cartoon, anything, lot of those themes have, before the visual medium even existed, have been explored in the written word in books. So, liking books, liking literature has to do with Various levels of reading, of course. But other than that, the fact that you cannot get it very directly, like you get to see a film, the pleasure is in that. So, বই একটা পড়াটা মানে লাইক বইটা পড়া আরম্ভ করলে তুমি বুঝতে পারবে যে বই পড়ার যেটা আনন্দ, সেই আনন্দটা লগে মানে ফিল্ম দেখা বা গান শোনা ওটার থেকে অনেক হায়ার, ডিপার অ্যান্ড মোর স্যাটিসফাইং লেভেলের একটা জয় বই পড়ে আমরা পেতে পারি। সেটার পসিবিলিটিটা সাহিত্য পড়ার, লাইক সে রবীন্দ্রনাথের উপন্যাস সে নষ্ট নীর, দ্য ব্রোকেননেস, যেটা থেকে ইন্সপায়ার হয়ে সত্যজিৎ রে চারুলতা ফিল্মটা বানিয়েছিল। সো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়ান অফ মাই ফেভারিট উপন্যাস। অ্যান্ড সেই উপন্যাসটা পড়ে আমার যতটা ভালো লেগেছে, ইন ওয়ান ওয়ে চারুলতা সিনেমাটা দেখাচ্ছেও বেশি ভালো লেগেছে। সো সেই লিটারেচারটা পড়লে তুমি একটা 3 ঘন্টার ফিল্ম দেখবে, তো ওটার থেকে তোমার যেই জয়টা হবে, লাইক বিকজ অফ এনজয়িং দ্য মুভি, বাট one book you can enjoy for such a longer period of time. So that is a different level and quality of joy itself. I think literature, reading literature, liking books, like say how your Vijitsa would have said that a book is a manifestation of literature. The fact that we have these books, okay, so if I come to the publishing part, which is in your syllabus, this was by and large a more introductory sort of a lecture to kind of make you understand the basic concept of reading and of books. So if you go to the publishing part, say tumalokor syllabus je writers bilak ase ba text ase, how did those texts end up in your syllabus? You might not have thought about it. But for those texts to come to your syllabus, it was, first of all, written by the writer. And not just that he wrote it. Back then, there was not even, like a lot of writers, when they wrote, there was no typewriter, in fact. They wrote it by hand with a fountain pen or something. So the fact that it is in print is because it was published. So Dickens's novels were published serially. Lot of Victorian writers were published serially. Nowadays, the modern writers you read, say Ishiguro or Pamuk or Salman Rushdie, all of their books are directly published as books. Juntur process to moi in a brief way, eto lecturer bujai dim, because that is a part of this entire thing. So, for example, say Greek, Homer's Iliad, or those Greek myths, how did it reach us? Those were handwritten because there was no printing technology back then. So these were handwritten and preserved in, say, the Library of Alexandria or some scholar's personal library in Greece. Later, when the pagan civilization was no more there and there was this Christian civilization, Christian monasteries had libraries. And the priests and the clergymen were actually the only people who could read. And they, when they discovered these Greek books, they thought that though it goes against Christianity, again, like understanding Christianity is very basic to understand English literature, because everything in English literature has to do with Christianity. Something against Christianity, mostly, and sometimes something for as well. Okay, so these books, these are preserved in monasteries, and as you would have read how Renaissance came about, how Constantinople or some Christian priests, they bought a selection of books, and they came to Europe and they came to Italy, and from there Middle Ages, the Dark Ages were off, and the Renaissance came about. So the flourishing of art, architecture, literature, everything was there. So these books were preserved in monasteries. Later, of course, like library vastutu from being preserved in monasteries, slowly the concept of public libraries came up. And in like fast forward lot of years, if you come to say in the after the 1900s, the public education policies which came up in all over the world, that resulted in the fact that every one of us could read and write. So, as because everyone could read and write, the libraries were also made open to public. So the very fact that you can go and read the Homer's Iliad was not possible for anybody to go and read the Homer's Iliad when it was actually written, because most of the people didn't know how to read. So finally that happened. So we have reached this current state of libraries. So if I go back to publishing, if I have to say how modern publishing works, mostly literary writers get published in literary magazines like the Paris Review, the New Yorker. In India, there is this literary magazine called the Bombay Literary Magazine. And these literary magazines publish these authors sometimes before they are very prominent. So a lot of people whom, say, the Paris Review publishes went on to become the winner of Nobel Prize for Literature or Booker Prize. So that is how it gets included in the syllabus. First, it needs to get published somewhere. So how does a book publishing work exactly? Say any modern book. This is a Ingraji publishing or process too. Aru, it's more detailed. Like vernacular publishing in Assamese, it is different, or some other regional language at a different second. Moi juntu publishing process or kotha kom, that is mostly for Western publication houses, whose sister publication houses are also set in India. Say Penguin. There is a Penguin UK, there is a Penguin US, there's Penguin Australia, and also Penguin India, and I think South Africa as well. So, say for the example, Penguin India. So, there are two processes through which books get published. One is through a literary agent. So, in the West, America, the UK, literary agent took a common at a phenomenon. So, literary agent you understand, right? June duta partik mazot mane heri kore, that is the agent. So, duta party here is the writer and the publisher, and mazot is literary agent. So, literary agent writer represent kore to the publisher, and if the writer gets selected, etia bahirot agent manages all the technicalities which have to do with signing of copyright and all those things, signing of contract and everything. So within the publication house, if we say, there are different departments. Like jikunu company ro jeneke beleg department thake, jeneke publishing house ro beleg department thake. There is the editorial team, there is a book cover designing team, sales team, marketing team, there is publicity team. So all of them work together first to produce the book. Of course, there's the production team, and then to send it to the market, to the bookstores, and then the sales are counted, and sales are basis of author gets a annual royalty, or like a 6 month or 1 year they get a royalty paycheck. And when they sign the contract with the publisher, they get upfront payment when they sign it. So this is a very concise model of how publishing works, which I have told you. So, is anyone interested in any particular area or anything else? The entire thing was jundila kotha kolu tar bhitor jikono bishoyor bishoye jodi konoba kiba khudibole ase. Oh, hi.
That how you approach a book which is described in your syllabus.
How I approach a book?
Yes, which is described in your syllabus.
which is in my syllabus. কিছুমান কিতাপ ভাল পাবলে এটা লেভেলৰ সেই এস্থেটিক ট্ৰেইনিং যোনটো তুমি মানে কৈছিলা না, that aesthetic training is also important. মই যেনেকে ক'লো সেইকাৰণে যে ক্লাছিক্স পঢ়িবলে তুমি এটা বেলেগ ধৰণৰ এটা সময় লাগে। মই ফাৰ্ষ্ট ছেমিষ্টাৰত মই যি বুজি পাইছিলো সাহিত্যক কি বুলি ভাবিছিলো, আৰু এতিয়া 2 বছৰ লিটাৰেচাৰ পঢ়াৰ পিছত মই সাহিত্যক যেনেকে এপ্ৰ'চ কৰো, বা ইনফেক্ট মেবি মই 2 বছৰ 3 বছৰ আগতে পঢ়ি বুজি নোপোৱা কিছুমান কিতাপ এতিয়া মই পঢ়ি বুজি পাইছো, বা আগতে যোনবিলাক ইমান ভাল নালাগিছিল এতিয়া মই নতুনকে ভাল লাগিছে। সো মানুহে অলৱেজ এটা গ্ৰোথ প্ৰচেছৰ থ্ৰুদি যায় না মেণ্টেলি, জীৱনৰ এক্সপিৰিয়েঞ্চেছক লৈ সাহিত্যৰ এক্সপিৰিয়েঞ্চ বেলেগ বেলেগ বস্তু পঢ়ি মানুহৰ সেই গ্ৰোথটো হয়। সো সেইটোকে মই কৈছো that এপ্ৰ'চটো মানে I think we should all approach a book, of course, like in serious literary studies, sometimes it's difficult, but naturally, any book, if we are to approach, we should approach it like a child. The way a child reads or whatever, if he watches something, if he does something, he does it because he likes it. So, when we approach any art, we should do it because we like doing it. Like that we find a joy in consuming it, And when you read a classic, of course, you need to look at it from the thing that, okay, it has been written like quite 100 years ago, and I need to look at it to see the socio-political aspects of it. So, of course, there are some lens which literature and literary criticism gives us, through which we are supposed to look at the literature. We are supposed to look at it socio-politically. We are supposed to look at it from the perspective of gender, from the perspective of who is marginalized. So those kind of literary criticism, there are some এইবিলাক মানে ইনষ্ট্ৰুমেণ্টৰ নিচিনা, like scientific laboratory বস্তু analyze কৰিবলৈ you have a telescope, a microscope, magnifying glass, you have some acid, this and that. In literature, in literary criticism, these are the tools through which you criticize. But মই say personally, এতিয়া মই যোনবিলাক যিমান কথা কলো, am I audible? হা শুনি আছে না? So এতিয়া মই যিমান বিলাক কথা কলো, মই কোনো কিতাপৰ পৰা পঢ়ি কোৱা নাই। So সাহিত্যৰ ক্ৰিটিচিজমটো নট নেচেচাৰিলি কোনোবা ক্ৰিটিকে কোৱা কথাটো হ'ব লাগিব, বা ইনফেক্ট কেতিয়াবা সাহিত্য পঢ়াটো একেবাৰে ক্ৰিটিকেল নোহোৱাকে ইউ কেন ৰিড, জাষ্ট ফৰ দ্য সেক অফ দ্য লাভ অফ দ্যাট স্টোরি। লাইক সে আমরা ছোট থাকতে আমাদের ঠাকুমা যখন আমাদেরকে সোনার কাঠি রূপার কাঠি গল্প শোনাতো, তো আমরা এটা ভাবতাম না হাউ টু অ্যাপ্রোচ দ্য স্টোরি, রাইট? we used to just listen to the story that our grandmothers tell us without thinking about how to approach it. So approach would come in its own way. You do not have to think about the approach. In a very organic way, if you want to read, just read it for the love of the story. That is the first thing. Of course, when you study literature, the love of the story becomes a sort of, যেটা Virginia Woolf কৈছিলেন না, that hey, the common reader type of বস্তুটো. So but it's important to be a common reader. আমার যোনটো ট্রেনিং হয় ইংৰাজী সাহিত্য পঢ়োতে, it is the training to become a critic or to become a critical reader. But common reader huatu, to just read for the love of the story and to think about it not strictly in terms of theories, is also very significant, I feel. তোমালোকৰ syllabusত publishing houses in India type or eta heriu ase na, so I'll tell you about publishing houses also. Tumalok actually Nagaon kitapor dukan nathakatu pa eta levelot obviously tumaloke jodi proper bookstore eta ase Bangalore kitapor dukan ekhonole jua, তুমি হুমায়ে পেঙ্গুইন ক্লাছিক্সৰ এটা শেল্ফ দেখিবা, Wordsworth Classics or eta shelf dekhiba, aru tumi mix kisuman kitab dekhiba which are published by various different publishers. But kisuman publishers say Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Speaking Tiger, Elf, these are like really really common ones. And Indian publishing house kobole gole Rupa, Fingerprint, and there are certain academic publishing houses as well, say Zuban. So Zuban is a feminist publishing house. So it publishes academic books also, but also fiction. And Assamor anthology eta Zubanor pa ulaise, Stories from the Riverside, gote Northeaster ulaise. So Zuban is one. Then, of course, there are children's publishing houses. Beleg publishing houses or nizor imprint to thake. So Penguin or children's imprinter naam se Puffin. So, like that, there are various publishing houses, there are various magazines, and yeah, there is Hatchet. So, all these all are mostly like Western publishing houses which have set up their sister thing in India. That is sort of important for you to know because you just know that these publication houses are international. And if you open a book, I think Sarai tumalukok he copyright page to bahut bar dekhaise. So if you see the copyright page, you would see, or even in the title page, there is the name of the publisher there. So kisuman bahut common publishers ase. Like Penguin is like, you know Penguin, or if you do not know Penguin, mane you do not know about books, mane, because Penguin is like the most like dominating publisher, so to say, in the publishing industry. So yeah, there is Faber and Faber, like that. There are like say like Ohomiyat Bonalota is right, Agbak is Golpokotha is like Hitur eta storytelling offline hoy, but it's also a publishing house. That Bhavani Books is there, Jyoti Prakakhon, Chandra Prakakhon. Bengalis, there is Anando. Then there is Mitra Oghosh. So like that, there are various publishers in various languages. English publishers are nam besibhag tumalukor juntu syllabus kobole dise, those are English publishers. But of course, like Assamese and Bengali publishers are of course very prominent. And these are some Assamese publication houses I just named. But I thought about this one more example, like, mane, Ganor Pinopa Sabole Golese. That sub Ganot je premor bhabtu iman beleg lyrics edi express kore, na? Iman dhoronoke kyo kobo lage premor kotha? Eta dhoronoke koi dile hol, utility karone jodi lage. So, manuhe je হাজাৰ এটা প্ৰেমৰ গান লিখিছে বা লাখটা প্ৰেমৰ গান লিখিছে আৰু বেলেগ ধৰণকে যে প্ৰেমৰ কথাটো কয়, সেই সাহিত্যৰ কথাটো খুব নেৰো ডাউন যদি বিউটি বা লাভ সেইটো পিনৰ বা সি উইমেন্স বিউটি ইটসেল্ফ, সেইটোৰ যে বৰ্ণনাটো শকুন্তলাৰ পৰা ধৰি হেলেনৰ পৰা ধৰি বেলেগ যোনবিলাক ক্লিঅ'পেট্ৰাৰ পৰা ধৰি যিমান মানে হিউমেন চিভিলাইজেশ্যনে আটাইতকৈ ধুনীয়া মাইকী মানুহক ইমাজিন কৰিছে, সেইটোৰ কাৰণে যিমান বেলেগ ধৰণৰ শব্দ ইউজ কৰিছে ধুনীয়াটো এক্সপ্ৰেছ কৰিবলৈও আৰু সেই ধুনীয়া মানুহজনীৰ প্ৰতি ফিলিংছটো এক্সপ্ৰেছ কৰিবলৈ, that is what is the human endeavor also, but that is included in the human endeavor, that আমি সব বস্তু খালি ইউটিলিটিৰ কাৰণে নকৰো. We do it because we want to express ourselves something larger than life, mother. That thing. In Search of Lost Time, na? That je prothomote bhabise that he high society মানুহৰ মাজত থাকি বা বহুত টকা হলে sense of completeness to আহিব, আহা নাই. পিছত ভাবিছে that when I'll find love of my life, তেতিয়া completeness to আহিব, আহা নাই. And then ঘুৰি গৈ finally that realize that I forgot the name of that cake or pastry, I don't remember. But that smell of that pastry, মানে এতিয়া সিটোৰ স্মেলটো লৈ যে একদম সৰু থাকোতে যে সেইটো খাইছিলে বা সেইটো স্মেলটো টেষ্টটো কেনেকা আছিল, সেই মেমৰিটো যে জাগ্ৰত হৈছে. So that the meaning of life is in the smallest of the pleasure. It's like আলু পিটিকাটো পোৱালিতে আইতাই খুৱাই দিওঁতে যেনেকা ভাল লাগিছিলে মনটো, সেইটোত যে লাইফৰ মিনিংটো সোমাই থাকিব পাৰে তেনেকা ধৰণৰ কথাটো। লাইক একদম প্ৰথম অৱস্থাত ছাৰে মোক অসমীয়া কিতাপ পঢ়িবলৈ কওঁতে ইট ৱাজ ভেৰি ডিফিকাল্ট ফৰ মি অসমীয়া কিতাপ এখন পঢ়া, কাৰণ অবভিয়াছলি লাইক ইংলিছ মিডিয়ামত সৰুৰে পৰা পঢ়িলে ইট বিকামছ ডিফিকাল্ট ফৰ ইউ টু লাইক ফাৰ্ষ্ট অফ অল ৰিড অনলি। বেচিকলি আমি 10 বছৰ অসমীয়া স্কুলত পঢ়িও প্ৰপাৰলি অসমীয়া কিতাপ এখন মানে আখৰ কিতাপ মুখত লাগি নোযোৱাকে পঢ়িব পৰা হ'বতো নোৱাৰো যে। এণ্ড আদাৰ দেন দেট অসমীয়া কিতাপত বেচিকলি মই তেতিয়ালৈকে ইংৰাজী কিতাপ যিমান পঢ়িছিলো তাত মোৰ মনৰ ভাৱ কথা সেইবিলাক ইংৰাজী ৰাইটাৰৰ মাজত আছে বুলি কিন্তু মই কেতিয়াও ভাবিব পৰা নাছিলো এট that point of time যে মই যোনবিলাক কথা অনুভৱ কৰো, লাইক the joys or the loneliness or the emptiness, the void, সেই ধৰণৰ কথাবিলাক অসমীয়া সাহিত্যত থাকিব। কাৰণ অবভিয়াছলি যদিও মই অভাৰঅল স্কুলত পঢ়া সাহিত্যৰ লগত একো কানেক্ট ফিল কৰা নাই, বাট মই বিচাৰি উলিয়াওতে কিছুমান ইংৰাজী কিতাপত সেই কানেকশ্যনটো ফিল কৰিছো। বাট অসমীয়াটোৰ মোৰ মানে ইমাজিনেশ্যনৰ বাহিৰত আছিল that can happen. And when I read হিৰেণ গোহাঁই's Lost Luggage, তাত গোহাঁই ছাৰে নিজৰ 17 বছৰত প্ৰেম যোনজনী ছোৱালীক ভাল পাইছিলে তাইৰ কথা লিখিছে, তাইৰ বিয়া হৈ যাওঁতে তেওঁ কেনেকা ফিল কৰিছে সেইটোৰ এটা ৰিকালেকশ্যন। One day when he wakes up kind of sweaty on his bed and it was raining outside, সেই মেমৰিটো যে তেওঁৰ মনলৈ আহিছে and he thought about her and whatever happened when he was 17. সেইটো পঢ়ি আৰু অপূৰ্ব শৰ্মাৰ এজন কবিৰ মৃত্যু আৰু 12মহীয়া আম গছ চুটি গল্প পঢ়ি তাত একদম আৰম্ভণিতে যে কবি বিচনাত মানে তেনেকে দীঘল দি পৰি আছিল, সেই আকাশৰ পিনে চোৱা, আকাশত জীৱনৰ শূন্যতাটো অনুভৱ কৰা, মানে অনেষ্টলি আই থিংক সাহিত্য পঢ়িবলৈ তোমাৰ মনত এটা দুখ থাকিব লাগিব। তুমি যদি জীৱনত সি খালী ভাৱটো তোমাৰ মনলৈ যদি নাহে তেতিয়া তুমি ইন দি বিগিনিং অনলি সাহিত্য, কাৰণ যিমান মানুহে আই থিংক মোৰ বয়সত বেছিকে দে গেট ইনটু লিটাৰেচাৰ, সিহঁতে যে they get attracted to Sylvia Plath or Emily Dickinson or Camus or Kafka, it's because his life or লগত he dissatisfaction to বা জীৱনৰ শূন্যতাটোৰ বিষয়ে তুমি পাৰ্চনেলি অনুভৱ কৰিব লাগিব। তোমাৰ এনেকা এটা লেভেলৰ দুখ মনত থাকিব লাগিব যোনটো দুখ তুমি ওচৰে পাজৰে ডাঙৰ মানুহৰ ভিতৰত দেখা নাই মানে। আৰু সেই দুখটো মানে সেই টিনেজৰ সেই সময়ছোৱাত মানে বা টিনেজৰ পিক বা মিডিল সময়টোত you go through that phase of that sadness and that মানে introspection na, that মানে what is life মানে and what is happiness, that you think about it and you don't think about it when you are a child. You just get happy when you are happy, you are sad when you are sad and you mostly cry jodi মানে you know you উজতি খাই পৰি গলে ভৰিত দুখ পালে মূৰত দুখ পালে তো কান্দিবা না। বাট আমি যেতিয়া আমাৰ বয়সত যে আমি এইটো কাৰণে নাকান্দো কাৰণ আমি ভৰিত দুখ পাই গলো, মানে সেই ভৰিত দুখ পাই যোৱাৰ বাহিৰে যে আমি কান্দো দুখ অনুভৱ কৰো, সেই বস্তুবিলাক লিটাৰেচাৰ ভাল পোৱা আৰু পঢ়াৰ এটা ধৰণৰ মানে যোনটো ব্ৰিডিং গ্ৰাউণ্ডৰ নিচিনা ক্ৰিয়েট কৰে ইন এ লেভেল। এণ্ড সেই দুখটো যে মই হিৰেণ গোহাঁই বা অপূৰ্ব শৰ্মাৰ চুটি গল্পত বিচাৰি পাইছো, সেই দুখটো পোৱাটোৱে মোক মানে নিজৰ দুখটো আৰু মানে ভালকে দুখ লগোৱাৰ নিচিনা হৈছে। I don't know whether but it is মানে you read literature to feel sad, মানে you want to feel sad, you want your sadness to go to a level where you can kind of enjoy your sadness. You can enjoy the melancholy you have already within yourself, exaggerated by the literature you read with. আৰু তাৰ বাদে সেই ছাৰে at the beginning of the thing তেওঁ মোক কিছুমান canonical literature say classics পঢ়াৰ কথা বা Palgraveৰ Golden Treasury তেওঁ মোক gift কৰিছিলে. So back then মই মানে classics যিহেতু already I had tried reading classics মোৰ অলপ মানে classics পঢ়ি মই ভাল নাপাম ধৰণৰ ভাৱ এটা মনত আছিলে because language wise বহুত difficult পঢ়াটো সিমান easy নহয় classic especially তুমি নগাঁৱৰ নিচিনা জেগাত ডাঙৰ হলে তেনেকে. But I did end up liking like Edgar Allan Poe, reading his short stories as I said or his poems as well. And even Palgraveৰ যোনটো Golden Treasury তাত কবিতা খুব selected কিছুমান কবিতা মই ভাল পাইছিলো. But মানে basically when you start studying literature to be jana what you are supposed to like, you know the pedestal. When you are a lay person, you do not know the pedestal itself. So you just purely go by whatever you like. So you do not make an effort to like as such. So when I was reading, before I enrolled in English literature course, তেতিয়া মই ভাল যি পঢ়ি ভাল লাগে তাকে পঢ়ি দিম. And obviously, সেইটো এটা influence থাকে. তোমালোকে কিতাপৰ ভিডিঅ চোৱা না নোচোৱা নাজানো, but like booktube is full of young people. তোমাৰ মোৰ বয়সৰ বা under 25 বহুত মানুহে কিতাপৰ বিষয়ে অনলাইন কথা কৈ আছে. ইনষ্টাগ্ৰামত, ইউটিউবত, আগতে টিকটকত বহুত প্ৰমিনেন্ট হৈছিল কোভিডৰ সময়ত. So সেই young মানুহে যোনবিলাক কিতাপ পঢ়ে সেই টেষ্টটো সেইটো তোমাক ইনফ্লুৱেঞ্চ কৰে. And তাৰ ভিতৰত তুমি পঢ়িছে মই মুৰাকামি নৰৱেজিয়ান উড পঢ়িছিলো তেতিয়া বা এলিস অছমেনৰ ৰেডিঅ' চাইলেন্স পঢ়িছিলো. So এইবিলাক কিতাপ এইবিলাকতো খুব contemporary writer. Murakami is more literary, Osman is more young adult. But I liked reading it. So I would mostly তেতিয়া মই পঢ়াটো simply মই পঢ়ি ভাল পোৱা কাৰণে আছিলে, not because I was really trying to analyze or specifically looking for reading classics. But of course, for any reader, classics এখন পঢ়াটো is always the bar. You want to reach that level of being a reader যেতিয়া তুমি classic কিতাপ এখন পঢ়ি enjoy কৰিবা. Thank you everyone for attending this session. I hope I have been able to convey something which you would take away for today, tomorrow and days to come. And I'll be taking a snack break, leaving you with Vijit sir to have further discussion.